Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make lamb orzo. This is a lamb dish with little pasta, orzo pasta, and it's based loosely on uvetsi, which is a Greek dish. It's actually quite simple to make, and I'm going to do mine in my Instantpot, which is a pressure cooker amongst other things, and I'm going to basically use the pressure cooker function. So you can do this in a pressure cooker, but I have to stress you can also do this in a casserole dish, which you start off on the top of the stove and then you put it into the oven. So I'll give details of that as well as I go through the recipe. And it's actually not a difficult recipe. Takes a little bit of time, less time with the pressure cooker, but it takes a bit of time if you're doing it in the oven. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And for this I have 1 kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds of lamb, which I have cut into reasonably sized pieces. You can use almost any lamb you want. The cheaper cuts of lamb will still tenderize very nicely during this process. Then I'm going to use 400 grams of this orzo, and as you can see it looks quite like rice, but it's pasta. I have 800 grams, two 400 gram cans of chopped tomatoes. That works out at 28 ounces, so if you're in one of those countries that sells the 28 ounce cans, you can use one of those. I have 800 millilitres, which is 3 cups plus almost a quarter of a cup of chicken stock, but you could use water, but I'm using a chicken stock. I have 4 cloves of garlic, which I have chopped quite finely. You could reduce the amount if you want to, but 4 cloves is good for me. I have 3 grams, 1 teaspoon of allspice, 3 grams, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, ground cinnamon. I have 2 large onions, which I have peeled and chopped. And then I also have a big bag, which is about 400 grams of spinach, which I have washed, and I've just set that into a bowl. I'm going to stir that in right at the very end, so I don't need that for quite a while yet. So basically that's all the ingredients, apart from some olive oil for frying off the meat and the onions. So I'll get started by sautéing the meat to brown it. So I have my pot here, and I'm going to choose to sauté, and I'm going to choose to do that on a high temperature. So I'll put some oil in the bottom of the pot, maybe a couple of tablespoons, and I'll heat that up. And I'm going to fry or brown my lamb in batches, and as it browns I'm then going to take it out and set it to one side. And as I say, you can do this on the stovetop, so if you have a large casserole you could use, then you can do it in that, or you can start off by doing it in a frying pan, and you're going to brown the meat and soften the onions as well. So I can see that oil is just getting hot, so I'm going to put some meat in, and it's beginning to sizzle, so that's telling me that it's now hot enough to start sautéing. And I will turn the pieces over as they brown, and then I'll drain them off and do the remainder. My meat is now browned, and I'm going to transfer the last of that to my bowl. And then I'm going to saute my onions until they begin to soften. And I'll add just a little drop more oil. And as my onions are softening, and they're almost soft now, I'm going to put my garlic in for the last minute of the sautéing and just stir that around. And at this stage I think I'll also put in my cinnamon and my allspice and stir it around. And that's good enough like that. So then I'm going to put my meat back into the pan, and I'm going to pour in my tomatoes and my stock. And stir that around like that, and then I'm going to add some salt and some pepper, and I will check for the seasoning later and add more if I need it. And then it's time to pressure cook this. So I'm going to put my lid on, and with my Instantpot it automatically closes the vent so that it's sealed, and I'm going to set that to pressure cook, and I'm going to set it for 30 minutes. On high pressure for 30 minutes, and we'll start that. So as that begins to come up to temperature, I'll explain. I cook that for 30 minutes, and then when it pings to say that it's finished, I'm going to leave it without touching it until it's naturally released all the steam that's inside. And I will know that because my valve that has popped up when it is sealed will drop down, and that will tell me the pressure has been released. Then I can take the lid off and go on to add the Orzo. Now, if you're doing this on the stove top and in the oven, you will need a preheated oven at 150 Celsius, about 300 Fahrenheit. And having browned your meat and your onions and added everything in, as I just did, cover it with a lid and put it into the oven and allow it to cook for at least 2 hours. And then test it. You want the meat to be easy to tear apart. It should just almost be falling apart. And at that stage, it's ready to go on to the next step, which is to add the Orzo. And I will show you and talk to you about the Orzo once my meat has cooked. So I cooked my lamb in the Instant Pot for 30 minutes on high pressure. Then I allowed it to naturally release, and that's happened. That took about 35 minutes. So this is what it looks like now, and I've actually tested the meat and it's nice and tender, and there's lots of sauce still in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cook the orzo in the stock. Now, if you are using a casserole and you have it in the oven, after you've cooked it until the meat is tender, you can then put it on the stove top and add your orzo and cook the orzo in the juices with the meat still in, the same as I'm going to do in the Instant Pot. Now I could pressure cook this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to saute it, or use the saute setting just to cook the orzo for 5 minutes or so until it's fully cooked through. So I'll add the 400 grams, which is 14 ounces of orzo, and I'll stir that through. Like that. And I'm going to then switch to my saute mode. And I'm going to start that, and I'm just simply going to leave that. It's going to bring it back up to temperature until it starts to simmer, and then it will cook for 5 minutes or until I decide that the orzo is tender. Then I'll come back and we'll add the spinach in, and we'll wilt the spinach as well. So as you can see, I sauteed my orzo in the lamb sauce for 5 minutes, and I've tested it, and it's just slightly al dente, and as you can see it's thickened the sauce up dramatically as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my spinach in, and then I'm going to stir that through and wilt it. So I'll turn the heat on just for a few seconds until we've got that stirred through and wilted nicely. So I have the spinach stirred through, and it's just about wilted already, but I'm actually going to add just a little drop of boiling water into my sauce, just to loosen it a little bit, like that. And as you can see, that spinach is wilting very well. And that's now ready to serve. So I'm going to cook the vegetables that I want to eat with mine, and then I'll come back having dished some up, and I'll have a taste of it for you. So I've taken most of my lamb with orzo round to my niece for her dinner, but I've kept some back, and so here's my dinner. And it actually looks, I have to say, very appetizing. Now you could, if you wanted to, grate some parmesan or some hard Greek cheese or something over the top. Personally, I don't think it needs it, and I'll have a taste of it. It does taste very, very good. that lamb is so soft and tender, and the orzo has thickened the sauce very, very nicely. If you want it looser than that, you can add a little bit of liquid, and the spinach gives it a great taste as well. So this isn't difficult to make. It takes a little bit of time, but it's very well worth it. And as I said, it's easy to do on the stove top and in the oven as well, if you want to do it like that. So basically that's going to be all there is for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.